It is noon on a Sunday. It is the day after. So that means you got me, Joe Cook, got Coach Dub, Charlie Williams. May have some more join us today as we go over, give the game some time to marinate, go over, give it a little sleep, even though I think I got like 4 or 5 and then 4 or 5 hours and then come back and look at it. So thank you for joining us. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. And of course, as we go through this important stretch of the month of October, we still got our flash sale going on. $1 for 7 days, 50% off your first year. Big matchup this weekend against Vanderbilt. So, but obviously, Charlie, the Longhorns dropped the biggest matchup on the schedule this year. And I think what you wrote, of course, we're going to get to Quinn and the offensive line and all that different stuff. But I think what you wrote is very valuable, and it's over on Inside Texas. I think it's free to read. It's that Texas took an L last night, but they need to turn that loss into a lesson.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of things they can learn from on film and watching and just going through things. Lessons maybe Sark's been trying to teach them all season, like, hey, take every opponent the same 1-0 mentality to we got some things to clean up, and that's okay. Like, we're still sitting with one loss, right? Everything we want at the end of the season is still in play for us. So just take this as a lesson. Let's learn from it, and let's bounce back this week and take it personal. All the mistakes, anything you've done, look yourself in the mirror, take it personal, and say, "Hey, I'm gonna get better this week at this." Right? Not you can't say you get better at everything, right? But take one thing and say, "I'm gonna get better at it," and improve on it for next week. And I think these guys can do that. I think they're hungry. I think they're disappointed. Talking to some players, they say, we feel like we let the fans down, but like they took it personal, and I think they will bounce back from this. So we'll see come next Saturday.
Yeah, and I was actually texting Justin a little bit today. It's like, we don't need to talk about bracketology yet. And I've seen some people start mentioning, bracketology and 12-team playoff. And you don't need to do that for a one-loss team because, like you mentioned, all the goals are still on the table. And is that, what you would expect a losing team to say? People who cover a losing team to say, of course, they lost. Right. They got beat by the better team on Saturday night, but that is still true. But to reach a lot of those goals, they're going to need a lot better play. And I think, obviously, we see a bunch of comments here. It starts with Quinn. And I wrote, I think a lot of people, whenever they think of bad Quinn, they think of that Oklahoma State game from his first year at Texas. Technically, it was his redshirt freshman year, second year in college. The game that reminded me of was the TCU game, where it just didn't look like, whether it was a combination of, a run game not being able to get going. I know in that TCU game, they spammed trying to throw it to Xavier Worthy. They didn't do that much in this game. But it was just, the stats show like, oh, yeah, he kind of gained some form over the second part. He really didn't. And it was just an average game, so. But what's next for Quinn? Like, what's the lesson he needs to take this week?
There's just some accountability on things he messed up on, and things he could have did better on. I think it's all about, like I said, self-improvement. Go back and watch film, Quinn. Go back and say, man, I missed some opportunities here, or I should have did this. I should have stepped up in the pocket here, set my feet here. There's little things, right? And I always say this, in the win, it's not as good as it really looks on film, and the loss is not as bad as you think. Sometimes it's just small things that can correct or change the outcome of a play in a game. So you just got to go back and look at the little bitty things and what can I clean up? What can I have been better at? And going through situations as well. Next time I see a 5-man, 6-man pressure, maybe I should expect this. Or if I'm in a boundary, maybe they run a cat blitz because Georgia hit it on me. Maybe some other team thinks they're going to hit it on me. The next time. So just watch film and really take notes and say, okay, what can I clean up? And that's what every player can do, not just Quinn.
And there's stuff about his footwork. I mean, he looked like 2022 Quinn. And, last year, was he inconsistent? Yes. Was he bad like he was last night? No.
No.
And even Quinn, and I don't say this to excuse him. I don't think he said this to excuse himself. I think he said it matter-of-factly. Like, he's still feeling the effects of whatever happened to him.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's healthy enough to play, and he believes he's healthy enough to play. So if he's going to go out there, he's going to subject himself to the hits, the criticism that comes with being on the field. And I know maybe the standard has to change a little bit with
Yeah.
position being quarterback. It's a lot different, especially
Mhm.
we'll get to the backup part in a little bit. But you know, if you're out there and you're playing, I know these guys are gladiators, they're warriors, and that's the
Yeah.
quarterback position. But like, if you're out there, you have to be more effective at this
Sure.
juncture. Or if you're Steve Sarkisian and you know you have to that's what when we were talking I think a couple weeks ago, honesty was the word about
Mm.
Quinn and his injury and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Honesty, and I'm not saying he's lying or anything like that, but they need
Right.
to be upfront about where they are at.
True.
So go ahead.
I was just saying, no, that's very true. I think it's good to be honest about where you're at injury wise, because film does a lot. Now, honest guy does a lot. Like a lot of things are going to show up if you're trying to hide or mask things. And so you're right. Honesty is very important. I think just from the outside looking in, it looks like you're just trying to cover up something. And I don't want to say they are, but I'm just saying, honesty is important.
And then let's get to the Arch part of this. Love Quinn.
All right.
Good comment from Intro Text. Love Quinn, but he can't be one of the reasons we lose another game. I believe that Arch is better with consistent first team reps, regardless of O line play. Look, Arch played ULM, UTSA, and Mississippi State, and even Arch, I get bringing him in just because it was needed. Quinn wasn't getting it done. Arch still turned the ball over. You know, it wasn't perfect. My big takeaway from that was I really don't think there's something to take away, but there's
Mhm.
not a lot to take away for like what does this mean about the quarterback position for the future of Texas from this game? Like I feel like this was a decision. Now I know Steve Sarkisian has seen that it could be effective, but I think this was a decision that's probably limited just to this weekend, at least for now, until maybe Quinn has another bad performance.
I thought about it, and I've seen other teams. I mean, you go back and look at the '08 Florida team. They used to put Tebow in and provide a spark when Chris Lee maybe wasn't playing up. Like it's what he put him in for, right? So he provided a spark. He was able to use his legs to what he thought was going to be a spark. And sometimes you need to settle Quinn or get his mind right. Hey, refocus. And you felt like you got a capable backup who can come in and maybe provide a small spark, in which he did a little bit. He brought his legs, and but then he showed, he's still a freshman too. He was still kind of looking at the deeper pass when you could have took the shallow for a first down. So, I mean, that was just a coach trying to shake things up and try to get his team, get some momentum and build some things going into halftime. So, who knows what Arch would look like, if he played a full game, right? Because Georgia's defense was doing a lot of things up front, not just confusing the quarterback, but the O line too. So
There's a clip, it's floating around where they basically now I made the point to y'all in like the text messages, some of those false starts, if you shift the line and it's basically like just to try to get the guy offside or to false start, they made that a point of emphasis this year to like
yeah,
you can get flagged on the defense for that.
yeah.
But they had some line shifts that basically literally before the snap
Mm-hmm.
completely changed what the defense looked like. And it changed the picture from everybody from Quinn to Kelvin Banks for literally everybody. Like
Yeah.
there was some stuff that and that kind of brings me to this. Why has Sark's opening script gone from fast starts to slow starts? Well, they stepped up in competition, stepped up in quality of athlete,
Yeah.
and Kirby Smart knows what he's doing. So, and granted, Oklahoma's defense took some time. Quinn was knocking off some of the rust. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is very valid, but you also have to recognize the step up in competition. I feel like that they've seen.
Exactly. That's a
Um,
huge point.
let's see, trying to think some more. I mean, here's the thing. I just mentioned that the Arch appearance I think is limited to this game. But if it happens again, then we got everything. We got the circus. We got all that stuff to go to. And I think Sark is going to make sure that he has invested so much time in
Mhm.
Quinn that he knows that even the investment that he's given to Arch, like the one he's put into Quinn is not worth throwing away
True.
yet.
Right.
So, and it's a very unique situation that he's paid $10 million to have to figure out. but it's still a tough one to figure out. We're going to get to some questions and comments in just a second. But before we do that, got to give some love to sponsor Andre the Lawyer, and we will let LC do the honors on that one.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Thank you to Andre. We bumped into Andre at the tailgate yesterday, and
Nice.
appreciate him being there. Charlie, what do you think? It's time,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Come on, man. After one loss by everyone, look,
I think we're good on that one. And like I said, you have to give some respect. Jalen Walker,
yes.
Michael Williams, like they gave it to Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams and DJ Campbell. Like those guys are elite playmakers. They are the results of stacked recruiting classes, and Texas has done that, but not to the extent and pipeline that Georgia has. Like the talented team won there on Saturday. Trying to go through some more of the comments, and I think this is the time to finally go through this one, because I think for the first 3 games, a lot of what we said was he's doing his job, but he's not. He is like this far. And it was true over the course of those 3 games. Like he was holding the line against Michigan. He was doing his job. But now it's 7 games. And that is a player who, even though there is an adjustment, I feel like they're not getting the stats that they want from him.
Yeah, I was watching him last night play. I saw a few times the running back came out and really chipped him and gave him a shot. I mean, the offensive line was blocking him, and that running back just comes up and just blasts him out of nowhere. Like they were chipping him a ton last night that I saw. Even with the tight end, they were kind of protecting on delay routes. He was blocking for him before he went out. So he was getting double teamed some, but the one-on-ones, you expected him to kind of come in and win some one-on-one matchups, because that's what he did at UTSA. They kind of lined him up at a wide 9 and just let him go. And I don't want to say it because of level of competition, because we've seen guys come from group of 5 level to power 5 level and do, great things. So I don't know. Maybe he's present. I don't know. I can't be in the head of Trey Moore and kind of what he's thinking, but man, I know Texas is like, okay, we brought him in for a certain reason. And I know fans want to see some results of him getting to the quarterback, because that's what he was brought in to do. So, hopefully that part of his game comes alive here soon.
Yeah, because that room it's on its way to being extremely talented. And that is, and it is very talented. Colin Simmons, I think, had one of his really better games too. But and Baron Sorrell, obviously, I think he probably had the best game of all that defensive end crew. But they brought in Trey Moore. The thing is, he could stick around another year. Like he doesn't have to go to the NFL. Like I think a lot of people wanted him or wanted it to be that way. But he's still on the path that he needs to be. UT Parking, thanks for coming on back in this one. This game was a great wake-up call for multiple people, chiefly Sark. He's got to find a way to establish a run game, mix in some power run concepts, and ramp up Boa Gibson. Somebody else made a comment, why didn't they go to the Big 12 Malik Agbo package? Man, then you're inviting another guy on the field who's big and had been manhandling Texas offensive line all night, and I get the mentality. But at the same time, you got to try to win with what's effective.
Exactly.
But I mean, this is true. The run game, like the 2022 TCU game, it really lacked, and it lacked in a way that really hurt the passing offense.
Yeah. Yep. And looking to the running game last night, they tried outside zone, they tried inside zone, which they're really, really good at. They tried some counter. But the defensive ends, man, they were crashing so hard and kind of blowing up the plays. Like it's hard to get things going. Maybe they could have tried, like an old school lead draw or something like that. But like they tried multiple different running schemes last night. The D line for Georgia just kind of did their job, man. Honestly, he's got to get hats off to him.
And then, this one, apparent that Georgia had scouted Quinn and Sark's tendencies, especially in the first half. Again, that's why Kirby Smart is good at what he does. Like
that's what they
you
do.
try to adjust the adjustments, but they do too. So sometimes, like you have to recognize that yes, Texas shot itself in the foot a handful of times, but the guys over there are really good too. Like they're top 5. They may end up being, I don't know, when the AP poll comes out, they may make a big jump. So you have to give credit to them. Trying to think of what else to go. This one, anything on Makuba? All Sark said after the game was that he had a knee injury. Didn't go any specifics. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes an announcement maybe Monday if it starts to leak out. But man, he was balling out too. He was, I think, the highest graded player on Pro Football Focus for whatever that is.
Yeah, that play he made, that was an NFL safety play. Like you're on the other side of the field, you're reading the quarterback sides, and you just like, you know what, I'm gonna abandon all responsibility because I see him looking this way, and he just breaks on it, man, and gets over there and makes a play like that. That was phenomenal, man. That was a phenomenal play by him.
Let's see. Released a statement last night. What do you think happens to Texas? They have to write a check. That's what they typically do. I think storming the field nets you a $250,000 fine. That obviously didn't happen, but that was a crazy moment. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. I think Texas fans can be happy that they got the call right. Really upset that the fans threw the trash that they did. And then, I think it does send a message in college football, like you delay the game, you may be able to get what you want.
Yeah, I saw a couple people say, "Hey, TDC, you owe the fans for that one, or you owe the fans for that." They got the call overturned, but yeah, man, you put a lot of people in danger in doing that. Let's see Sark go out there and say, "Hey, y'all need to stop, chill out," So, but yeah, that was a wild scene. I haven't seen that since 2018 Maryland.
2017, I remember
Maryland.
that one. Yeah, all the fans they were throwing on the field.
Yeah,
that was a time. Eat all the rat poison that whole week? No, like these guys are focused. They just got beat because they couldn't execute as well, and it started at quarterback. Like I don't think they're reading press clippings. Like these guys, this program, as we've heard the kids talk about, like they are pretty darn good at keeping focus on what they need to keep focus on.
Yeah, exactly.
The shame got to go with check down Charlie. Arch didn't know the full playbook. I don't know if that's the case. At the same time, what Quinn threw those checkdowns, and you give Georgia credit for making that his read, but you wrote about this. Sometimes you've got to trust the window and your player that's there.
Yeah, and I think for the first time, Texas receivers and quarterbacks, the windows were a little tighter. Like what you would expect from an NFL caliber type players, the man coverage was a little bit sticky for Georgia. We're not used to seeing that with Texas receivers. Quinn and maybe Arch are used to seeing bigger windows to throw to because nobody can keep up with our receivers, but Georgia was able to keep up. So those windows are a little tighter, but you still got to trust your guy and make a play and put the ball maybe in front of him and put it in the right spot. So, I mean, that's what you'll see at the next level for the most part in the NFL. And so, but when the check down is there, if you feel like you can't take the check down. Trust your athlete in space. Georgia was just able to make tackles in space last night when we threw the check down. So I thought that was a key to the game too.
Yeah, I mean they were making one-on-one tackles at a great level, but when the windows are there, they are there. Like you gotta try.
You gotta try.
And that's we've seen Arch do that. I mean the spring game for what it was, that's the best example. But if he sees windows, he's the one that throws. He'll throw it in there.
Yeah, he will.
Let's see. I'm trying to look through some more. I got to this one, and man, I could not disagree with this more. Like the reason that you hire Steve Sarkisian to replace Tom Herman is because you think he can call an effective offense, build a competent defense, and recruit to both sides. And remember, what did I say first? You can call a competent offense.
Yeah.
If he surrenders that, then you are actively removing a strength from the head coach.
Yep.
And I think that, Ryan, I'm sorry, I think any discussion of this is a non-starter. And to admit, Ryan Day is a different situation because he was a successor. I think that paints it a little bit differently. And Ryan Day, like, let's think about the margins here. They're this big. Like, every coin flip goes against him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. And to me, the idea that Ohio State would run him out of there is nuts. And I know others may disagree with that. But I feel like if you remove play calling from Sark, you are removing one of the absolute strengths of this program and making him operate with his hand tied behind his back.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to do that, man. I think this is what got him here. This is what you hired him for. You gotta let him be him. And that's what you got an assistant head coach for, who can kind of help you manage the game and do a lot of other things. And he's not the only person that calls plays, or the only head coach that calls plays. So I know a lot of people say that just maybe because it hasn't worked, but Urban Meyer had a lot of say in calling plays when he was in Florida. So it worked,
We're 20 minutes in, trying to go through a lot of y'all's questions, but we are going to have somebody else popping in just a second. Got to get to this. KD35 on the best. Thank you for joining. Is Sark stubborn, or will he hand over the reins to Arch next week if this continues with Quinn versus Vandy? I know he doesn't like to bench his quarterbacks. Like I said, I think this week, and as we do that, I'm going to bring Lando into the stove for this one, into the frying pan on this one. Like, we talked about this, how this Arch appearance was probably a one-game thing, but it's kind of like as soon as it doesn't stay a one-game thing, then it's not a one-game thing.
So I'll actually flip the script a little bit. Can y'all hear me okay?
Mic check. Yeah, you're loud and clear.
That's what happens when you show up on a whim. You got to do things on the fly. But to flip the script a little bit, I would just I guess just the question I've been asking myself. Had a conversation with my dad last night. A couple of the people I took the game in with. Sark's had every excuse, reason, opportunity already to ride with Arch, right? And it's not to say that's not even putting Arch in. It's not like that's not what national media and what seemingly half the fan base has been calling for already, anyways. And so that is the sexy thing to do. And despite the injury, despite the struggle, and despite doing it already, he reinserted Quinn Ewers at the start of the third quarter. So what does that tell you, right? Mm-hmm. The opportunities have been there. He doesn't need another excuse. Nobody would ask any questions about that decision if he were to once that decision's made to ride with it, right? But clearly, to me, unless the only speculative, I guess, logic to explain away that thought process would be Sark just is in his personal feelings and really wants to, not do anything to potentially dissipate Quinn's future draft stock, right? Or his reputation as a quarterback guru, what have you, right? It could be personal, but my dad asked that question. Fantastic. It was intuitive, right? To think that way, because the human element of sport does matter. Okay.
Yeah.
My rebuttal was, I have to believe that with everything that Sark has built now, the just going from where the program that he inherited to the program that we know to exist now, with the talent that exists, the depth that exists, and still 6-1, everything right in front of you, he has to have enough respect for what he's built to do what's best for the team, first and foremost.
Right.
Personal feelings can't be involved, and I have to trust that that's the case here. So ask yourselves, every opportunity to put Arch in and ride with it. Why haven't we done that yet?
All right.
Clearly, Sark thinks even a less than 100% Quinn Ewers gives them the best chance to operate within the functionality of the offense, the processability. Right now, I want to also address something real quick too. If we have a couple minutes, I know there's some time sensitive stuff, but I've seen a bunch of questions, and it's for good reason, questions about the arm strength. Okay. And Justin, notably last night, mentioning on Twitter, the next pass that Quinn Ewers throws will be the first one that he steps into. So that, to me, though, just being a former rotational athlete, an overhand thrower, okay, I understand hip to shoulder segmentation very well. And I also understand that when you are throwing things off of your back foot, or even oftentimes in the OU game and in this game, squaring up before you throw, there are regressions within the throw that can, if you have an oblique injury. So I'm going to just do a little demonstration here for everybody so that we're all on the same page. And Hagen's going to be in framed here too. So what happens is when you lead, I hope y'all can still hear me. When you lead this front hip, that left oblique, which is the core injury that Quinn sustained, that's at full, essentially, elasticity this way. So you create that hip to shoulder separation with the closed upper half, and then the hip leads the throw, and it's just like the spiral up the chain, right? The way that you eliminate that from the equation, if pain is involved, is you square your shoulders up and then you let your arm try to do everything.
Yes, thank you.
When that happens, not only do you have a lot less arm strength, you're also much less mechanically sound. Okay, it is a subconscious protective mechanism, the things that I am seeing Quinn do from the pocket. You don't just make the strides that he's made within his pocket presence and the ability to be more of a progressive passing player this year, and then get hurt and then just revert all the way back to your old habits if you're not protecting something physically.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with
it. And we had kind of talked about that. Like, that is all true, but you're also, and we made a big point about this, like, you're still on the battlefield, and if you're on there, you have to be effective. And I think you know that. But at the same time, like, it's a explanation, not an excuse, but
correct.
But that's still on Sark to manage, and that's why he's paid $10 million a year to do that. And Tub in Texas had this one. Quinn won't see a front seven like this again.
That's fair.
Well, I mean, you want to see another front seven like this.
Yeah.
Yes. You want to see him again, and then potentially again, right? But Texas and Georgia could link up 3 times this year. It's possible, right?
It's possible.
But I get what he's saying. In the regular season, finish strong, and then, like I said, everything is still in front of you. Now, I also want to say this: Quinn still has an obligation. The question was, I can't remember if Coach Dub or Joe, whichever one of you asked it, but what can Quinn learn from this? Okay, this is a tough, like, hey, man in the mirror situation right now.
It is.
Right. Quinn Ewers has to be honest with himself for his team about his health, right? Because, and this is another speculative thing, and y'all can stop me if I'm going too far with this, but this is just the athlete in me, okay? When you know that you are, that you're not physically 100%, what's the first thing you do before you go play a game? Any sport, anything competitive? What are you doing? What are you,
or like training room?
What are you ingesting? Right?
Yeah.
Some sort of, hey, I'm just saying, Toradol is a hell of a drug in the NFL. It's a hell of a drug in professional sports. It just is what it is. Let's call it spades here. Okay. This is speculative. But if he has to mask the pain with something, it's fair to ask the question, is it affecting up here?
Right.
So
and
one of the other
things,
factor, and he's got to be honest about that.
And one of the other things is I noticed this at least once, and I don't know if it happened multiple times, like, that makes me think that it's ongoing for him still, because he went in the tent, I think, at least once. And so I don't know if that means, pop off the pads, get the massage gun or whatever. That shows that they're still having to address it. But but it still all goes back to, you got to be honest about it. He's still out there playing. Sark is putting him out there. And if he's putting him out there, you've got to expect that he's going to be able to do what your offense needs, or else then there are other issues. Any big non-Quinn points that stood out to you?
So just for the sake of time, I put a few thoughts out there yesterday. I think what can't be lost in this discussion, as disappointing as the first half was, is the defense showed up. I mean, they played 4 quarters of football. That was a championship effort for the most part. Yes, there were a couple lapses in coverage, a couple I noticed one specific thing. I still have yet to do the rewatch, but one specific rare contain error. I believe with Michael Taff, he shot inside on the goal line, and I think the play spilled out to the edge. But that's just nitpicky stuff. Yeah. And on top of that, right, even if it's already nitpicky in general, but the defense bowed up as good as they possibly could. Here's the series or the chain of series from the defense. It went forced punt, interception, touchdown, in which Georgia started at the Texas 13-yard line.
Yep.
Field goal, which Georgia started at the Texas 28-yard line. Touchdown, that Georgia started at the Texas 34-yard line. So you get 3 stops. One is a you force a punt and then turn the football over twice, all before Georgia even scores any points. And it takes them starting essentially where it's 1st and goal in your own territory to get them enough momentum to actually finally be able to punch it in. Carson Beck didn't throw a touchdown pass last night, guys.
Right. Coach, I thought Etienne was their difference maker last night.
In a lot of ways, he made guys miss. He broke second chance. He forced missed tackles. I saw that often, and I didn't expect that. I think that's the first time we really saw that from a Texas defense, making guys miss in space and bounce off and getting those extra yards, because that turns a second, which would have been maybe a 3rd and long, into a 3rd and short. It's easier to convert. And so, I mean, for a team that hasn't really had a strong running game this season, man, I thought they found some positive things that they probably could build on going forward. But he ran tough. He ran hard, man. I could tell maybe just healthy for the first time. I'm really not sure, but he was able to get some of those extra yards that teams are not normally able to get versus Texas. I'm really not sure, where it came from or how, but he was able to do it last night.
The thing that, you rattled off all those short drives they got. They did it when they needed to on that long drive too.
Yeah,
I think you have to give them the credit that they deserve on that one. And that was a drive Texas was unable to even put anything close to together last night. But yeah, running, some of them were vulture touchdowns, but still he made the effort. What was it about? He was at like almost 5 yards a carry, right? Like 19 for 84, something like that.
Yeah.
So he was good. And then it was funny that flea flicker that Georgia ran
on the 3rd and 10.
That Texas, they tried to run that earlier in the game, and that was the Jatavian Sanders touchdown against in the Big 12 title last year. So Mike, I don't know if Sark got that from Mike Bobo or if Mike Bobo got that from Sark, or why Mike Bobo tried to call 3 straight passes when nursing a 2-possession lead in the 3rd quarter. But there were some they earned it when they needed it. So
they did.
Let's see, trying to go Coach, it's the last day of the state fair, so you're going to get all the fried beer and corny dogs that we left up there last week.
Well, hopefully they let me spend less tickets to get the stuff, man. Since it's the last day, give it away for free, please. We shall see. Oh man,
you got a few more minutes, Lando?
Yeah, sure.
All right, Coach, I appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow, maybe see you Tuesday, if not for recruiting intel.
Most definitely, man.
Sorry, didn't mean to do.
Enjoy the day, Coach.
Got too quick with it. So we went over the Quinn and Arch aspect and all that, and glad that we've got a lot of different fans from all different SEC fan bases here. A lot of fun.
People taking their victory laps as they should. Georgia fans especially. I mean, that you guys, you came prepared for a fight up front. Your defense was significantly better than Texas's offense. Difference in the ball game. Kudos. There's a reason why that level of physicality and aggression from their front 7 in particular is the reasons why they, a massive part of winning 2 of the last 3 national championships, and essentially becoming the crown jewel of the sport for a while there. So
yeah, they're only kryptonites in crimson.
Yeah, literally.
a lot. But I think you got to start looking at what's next for Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you got Vanderbilt, who's proven to be a little bit more of a challenge than you thought. I don't know what to think of Florida anymore. I think there's just a
weird one.
weird middle in the SEC that can play up here and then play down here.
Yep.
Florida's in that. But like Texas is going to probably get tested a little bit by Vanderbilt. I think they can handle Florida. They're going to get tested by Arkansas. They're going to be on, off, in my estimation. And this is a stretch of games where they can prove, a lot of people talking in the chat, understandably so, after a 30-15 win about, weren't ready for it. This stretch can prove that they can be ready for it. And I think A&M may be the toughest one as we start looking forward.
Seems that way as of right now. Yeah, that game's going to be a big one. It could potentially have, once again, SEC title implications for more than just one program in that fight. So, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of welcome to the SEC stuff. It's true. The welcome to the SEC moment happened. But listen, that wasn't Texas's first test against a quality SEC opponent. It won't be the last. They've fared well in recent past, and that's the thing. Like Georgia, they got punched in the mouth by Alabama a couple weeks ago, and what do? They regrouped. They learned from what happened, and a championship caliber team got humiliated, but humiliation can be healthy. They bounce back, and here they are. That's what good teams do. They bounce back. So I know that in these types of situations, you don't want to be a front runner and not be tested in the way that, like a reality check type thing before you get to where Texas believes. And I still absolutely believe that this team is destined for, which is the college football playoff and beyond. So it's healthy for you, man. And with, like I said, the depth being the difference for this roster all across the board for the most part is guys can't take days off. Yes, Coach Steve Sarkisian, I believe, got out-coached offensively in the first half of that game. There were some good adjustments. I love seeing Quinn officially settle in. That's why it's important, man, just to say, look, you gotta roll with the punches. These are the human element of sport is real. The talent that Texas will continually be tested with is real. Nobody's perfect, man. We're all human, and so Sark's going to learn something. And I think if we want to be specific about what I think he might learn, it's that, hey, look, you can't east and west and finesse your way around a physical football team like Georgia like that. You got to come out with your horses up front, your SEC ready offensive line, which had an uncharacteristic performance in their own right yesterday. Let's set the tone, right? Big Cam, Big DJ, Big Kelvin, two of those three at least are projected first-round picks right now on more than a few draft boards or mock drafts that I've been just kind of keeping track on, keeping tabs with. I know what those guys are about because every time I see a potential late hit of roughing the passer or unnecessary roughness or whatever, those are the first two got Cam and DJ, that is, sprinting over there ready for war. You got to just let's go combo some people. Let's get north and south in the running game. And I think the Jaden Blue discussion is another interesting one, not having a carry.
Right.
I understand game script, right? You kind of had to throw your way back into that, but it's a philosophical error, right? That should be the approach. Texas should be wanting to set the tone themselves the same way that Georgia showed up ready to do, especially on your home turf. So he's still a playmaker, man. I think this fan base as a whole can do a better job of staying behind that kid because I know he's and I've been critical of him as well, right? But like I said, 2 fumbles in that game. We're going to need Jaden against Mississippi State. We're going to need Jaden Blue again down the stretch. Okay?
Yeah.
You're going to need Quinn Ewers to be big and to have another Michigan or Alabama-like performance again down the stretch. Arch Manning's going to have to come in and play the way he did. You got to have depth, man, especially when, like I said, you want to play 16 games. You're going to take lumps like this. Take your licks, regroup, and it's not a coach speak cop out way of saying or a coping mechanism like people are saying. This is reality. This is how sports works. Styles make fights. Georgia was more well equipped that day yesterday from their scheme and with their front seven, their approach, because they've done it before. They've been through the SEC fire. They've controlled the tempos of all those types of games, and they've won national championships playing the way that they played yesterday. Texas is still trying to figure out that element of it, but the talent is most certainly there. They have to regroup. They have to bounce back. That's what good teams do, and I expect Texas to do the same.
And one of the more exciting things, and we talked about this before you jumped on, like, yeah, we can do the look ahead as kind of a coping mechanism. Like, oh, it's okay, everything's in front of you. It's true. It's still a little bit of a coping mechanism. At the same time, like, look at this. These two top teams play, which means all these other teams that have one loss in the SEC right now, like, they are still fighting for it. And I still got to scroll down. I mean, Bama's still there. They seem like they're kind of on the outside looking in because they're not in this little thing. But, like, all these teams are still right in the thick of the SEC race.
It's weird to not see Bama's logo up there. That's kind of crazy.
I know. Yeah, Vanderbilt above Bama.
Wild times, man. Yeah.
But, like, so, and it's even going to be weirder because not all these teams play each other. Like, Texas is not playing LSU, Tennessee, Missouri.
Yep.
A&M's got a pretty charitable schedule. Georgia has to play a bunch of teams that aren't on this picture. So it's going to be a very interesting race over the course of the last few weeks. Trying to think of anything else. Man, this is one of the more rowdy, mixed comment sections we've gotten. So we appreciate all our fans, new and old, who have come in. Anything else? I do want to talk about one last thing that Chris Bennett brought up, and anything else you want to touch on? Because we talked about Barron, kind of skirted past the bottle thing, and I think the assessment was right call, awful process put together by Texas fans as well.
Yeah.
But anything else you wanted to hit on big time?
I'm still actually sitting here trying to process everything as well. I'm going on 3 hours of sleep. So I was up till about 3:30 last night, kind of just going through. I sleep. I work when my girls go to sleep anyway. So they're my 9 to 5. And then when they go to bed, I get to work. So I'm kind of used to staying up late, but last night was an extra late one. So just still trying to process everything. But, I think just continuing to, first and foremost, obviously the quarterback situation's got to get solved and healthy. But start just leaning into just to be overly simplistic this way on the ground game, that way. Be physical. Let Cam, Kelvin, Hayden, Cole, DJ, Jake, and company act like they're the big bad bullies up front. That you gotta carry that mentality, even if they don't all necessarily collectively believe it right now. So it's Sark's job, because this is like Georgia just showed you last night the blueprint. You want to win the SEC? You better be ready for a heavyweight fight up front. You want to go win national championships? You better be ready for a heavyweight fight up front. The best unit on the roster, to me, and to most, I would venture to guess, and as well as not just on the roster, the best arguably offensive line in the entire country. You got to have that level of that FU, and it starts with the play caller saying, "Hey, we ain't going to matriculate this football down the field. Let's see if Georgia's showed up ready for a fight, and start out that way." You have to meet that. You got to fight fire with fire first. In those types of settings, when they're geared up, they're doubted. Everybody on every media set pregame is picking Texas. Nobody's talking about Georgia. Kirby's like, "All right, you just wait and see. I'm about to send a message here," and they did that. They were the more physical football team. They were more prepared, showed up ready for a fight. So I just want to see Sark instill confidence in that front five, and then all the extra skill position. Guys, we've been in this situation before. People mock Texas for the dark decade of recruiting, in which people say, "Oh, well, Texas has always had all the blue chips. Texas has always been in the top 5 in recruiting classes, top 10, whatever." And yes, Tom Herman and Charlie Strong each had their share of top 5 classes. But the difference was always, the truth is in the trenches. And that was where, look, Steve Sarkisian couldn't field a freaking spring game with 2 teams of scholarship offensive linemen, guys. That we have been in this situation before. Yes, Texas has recruited at an elite level, even despite those years when they were winning 5 and 7 and 8 and 5 football games. They weren't recruiting well enough in the right places. You can have elite skill position talent, which they did make up for a really gaudy class. Okay. But it was fraudulent. Kansas, between 2018 and 2022, I want to say, it was a 5-year stretch. So do the math. I don't know. Like I said, I'm sleep deprived. They had more scholarship offensive linemen brought into their program during that 5-year stretch than Texas did. Texas was tied for last in the Big 12 before that. So it was from 2017 to 2021 because it was before the jump to the SEC. They were tied for last place in the SEC, and scholarship offensive linemen signed and brought into the program.
Yeah, that's why they brought in 7. And I think you bring up you're bringing up a point. I've been trying to figure out, like, how do I put my finger on this loss? And you brought up the talent difference, and let's not get it twisted. Like 11 and 13 Williams and Walker, like, those are special dudes that Texas wants and could have in a couple of years, I feel like, in the form of Simmons and Hill, but they don't have them yet. But these are the games.
For sure.
These are the games where so think about LSU in 2019. Mm-hmm. Texas threw every punch they had, every strategy, all they wanted, all that different stuff. But the better players won the game because Texas couldn't match the talent level. And that was still flawed Texas team. Defense was terrible. Mm-hmm. There's still some good players, but there weren't great players. And of course, LSU 2019 is a different standard. But now these are the types of games where Texas at least hopes to think that they are on a pretty similar footing. So you have to bring it not just from a schematic standpoint, which Kirby won that one. You have to bring it from an execution standpoint against those guys, and that's where Texas faltered. It was a different type of loss, I feel like, than we're used to seeing, but it's a loss all the same. 2 comments I wanted to hit on, one short, one long. Y'all better go get Urban Meyer. You obviously did not watch the Jaguars. Urban Meyer is not built for modern college football, full stop.
Is that a troll or is that real? Is that real?
Somebody mentioned about Sark should forfeit play calling duty, and I disagreed with it. I understand some of it, but at the same time, you brought in Sark to call plays. Like, that's why you're here. This one, good one to end on, I feel like. Was that the best atmosphere in history? Well, until they started throwing junk on the field, yeah. Definitely the biggest crowd, 105, 215, 2 bigger than the Alabama game. Texas has had a problem of staying engaged the whole game, and when you're down 23-0, that's difficult to do. So credit for them for getting back into it when the team did. I think it's probably up there. All the old heads will say 1990 U of H, and that's because that crowd was engaged literally the whole time. But I think that may have been up there. It's at some point Texas is going to want these great atmospheres to come in wins instead of losses. So yeah, it happens. Well, Lando, good to see you back on here. Congratulations to you as well and your family. And thank everybody for watching, whether you're a longtime fan or a newcomer. We're glad you're here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you have not yet, you can head to Inside Texas. We're still breaking down big games. You can get 7 days for just $1 and then 50% off of your first year. So thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.